Alright, guys, so last little section in the book, and this is on making maple syrup. The days are longer, but it still isn't spring. And after being cooped up by the wood stove all winter, it is delightful to rouse yourself and trundle off into the maple grove to set the taps for the first flow of sap. And that is our dog complaining because Chloe went to the store. Later, the smell of wood smoke, mingled with that of the sweet boiling sap, will fill you with a happy expectation of pouring your own dark golden syrup over fresh hot cakes or fritters. After the last of the syrup is bottled, the maple grove will continue to give pleasure with leafy summer shade, followed by a dazzle of orange foliage. Your homemade syrup will continue to bring the joy of natural sweetness to your table and those of your lucky friends. The basic process of making maple syrup is extremely simple. All you do is boil maple sap down, way down. It takes about 9... Nebula! That's enough! It takes about 9 gallons of sap to make 1 pint syrup. If you intend to sell the syrup you make, there are some further steps, such as filtering it and grading it, but these are not necessary for making a delicious product for home consumption. The equipment for making syrup can be as simple as 2 or 3 spouts, some large tin cans, and a kettle. Or it can be as complicated as a full-scale sugar house with evaporator, finishing rig, and holding tank. Here you'll find the steps to make only a couple of quarts of syrup. For this, you'll have to invest in very little equipment. Maple trees. First of all, your part of the country has to have sunny days and freezing nights in early spring, or maples won't yield any sap to mention. Where is the climate right? In virtually all of New England, in most of New York State, in western Pennsylvania, in a broad sweep of the Midwest, especially Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and in parts of Canada. Next, you must be able to recognize a sugar maple. Nebula, stop it. Lay down. Oh, quit. Most people who grew up in the city or suburbs cannot. Maple syrup expert Noel Perrin admits that years ago he paid a neighbor's teenage son $3 to walk through his newly bought woods with him. Pointing out the sugar maples while he marked them with red paint. In winter and spring, however, it can sometimes be hard to tell. So if you're going to tap maples in a woodlot, identify them the fall before you plan to start. To help you identify sugar maples, you'll need to recognize 2 other maples, so you know which trees not to tap. The Norway maple is usually planted in yards as an ornamental tree. It has the same classic maple leaf as a sugar maple, the leaf that is on the Canadian flag. But the leaf of the Norway is about twice as wide as a sugar maple leaf and much larger altogether. The bark has a fine diamond-shaped pattern that sugar maples lack. The other common variety is the red maple, also called swamp maple. Nebula, stop it. In the fall, it's easy to tell one from a sugar maple. It is among the first of all trees to turn color, and it becomes bright scarlet. A sugar maple will turn pink to yellow to orange several weeks later. Also, red maples have small sawtooth leaves, while the edges of a sugar maple leaf are smoothly curved. Step by step. All right, actually, I'll show you the leaves. That one is the Norway. The middle one is the red leaf, and then that's the sugar maple right there. All right. Step by step. Tapping. The right day to start is a sunny one when the temperature is at least 40 degrees Fahrenheit after a freezing night. Depending on where you live, such days will begin to occur anywhere from late February to late March. If you tap too early, your spouts will dry up before the season is over. A tree usually closes off the flow of sap in 4 to 6 weeks. This becomes a problem if you tapped on a freak early warm day and then is followed by a couple of weeks of cold weather. On the other hand, if you tap too late, you miss the early runs. A good rule of thumb is to tap about 1 month before the last snow is usually gone. Nebula! Lay down! If the snow in your area is typically melted away by April 10th, you should tap around March 10th. Maple syrup supplies. Spouts. You'll need 1 to 5 spouts, which are usually available in hardware stores in sugaring country. They come in 4 or 5 varieties. Look for spouts that come with precast hooks. Quit. But any of the metal spouts on the market will work just fine. A drill. A hand drill with a 7 by 16 inch 7/16 of an inch bit is best, though you could probably get away with a 3/8 or 1/2 inch bit. Containers. You'll need several, including sap buckets, plastic gallon jugs, such as those that cider and milk come in, or even coffee cans, though you would have to empty them rather often. A large plastic pail for gathering the sap is also helpful. Heat. Boiling sap down requires plenty of heat for a long period of time. The simplest way is to put an ordinary cooking pot on the kitchen stove or wood stove, but the sticky steam may be a problem in the house. Most people prefer to do their boiling in the yard or an outdoor fireplace. All right. You'll need 1 to 5 spouts, a drill, and a hammer in each tree. Drill a hole about 2.5 inches deep and about 2 feet above the ground. Gently drive in the spout with a hammer. If it's a hookless spout, remember to put on a hook facing outward before you do. Use several light strokes to tap in the spout. If you drive it in too hard, you will split the bark and a good deal of sap will leak out through the split and be lost. But if you drive it in too lightly, it may pull out under the weight of a full container. If you're using tin cans to collect the sap, make a hole near the rims and hang on the hooks. If you're using gallon plastic jugs, hang them by a hole in the handle, because it is the strongest part of the jugs. If you get the jugs up by 10 o'clock in the morning, they should be full by supper time. In fact, if it is a really good day, you may have to empty them twice, and you'll wish you had a gathering pail. A cheap plastic bucket will work nicely. Start boiling. As soon as you've gathered, you can start boiling. A pot that will hold at least 2 gallons is best. Just pour in the sap and leave it to simmer all night. At this stage, no special precautions are necessary. In the morning, if you're lucky, the volume will be down about half, and by afternoon, it will be down to about a quarter. At this point, you'll need to decide whether to keep adding fresh sap or to finish off each batch separately. Nebula! Since 2 gallons of sap make less than 1 cup of maple syrup, it's a good idea to add fresh sap to make at least a pint at a time. Once the sap is boiled down to about 1/10 of its original volume, you should start watching it carefully. Skim off the thick white foam from the top and discard it. The syrup may boil up abruptly if the heat is too high. Adding a single drop of cream will send it right back down and enable you to keep it boiling. If you have a candy thermometer, use it to test whether the syrup is done. It should read 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, which is 219 degrees Fahrenheit. Or dip an ordinary spatula into the boiling sap and hold it vertically over the pot. If the syrup is ready, a thin apron of maple will appear at the bottom of the spatula. If the sap is still too thin, it will simply drip back into the pot. Filtering. Alright, it aproned. You have syrup. Since this syrup is for home use, you can immediately store it in a clean glass jar with an airtight lid. The next day, however, there will be an unattractive sediment at the bottom of the jar. The old time... Go lay down! Go lay down! Go lay down! The old-timers just poured off the clear syrup from above it if you prefer to filter it, but you may prefer to filter it. Commercial sugarers use a special felted wool filter, but you can simply pour it through a paper coffee filter or even a funnel lined with paper toweling. Repeat these steps until the season ends or you get tired, whichever comes first. Small-scale sugaring is so slow a process that people often do tire of it while the sap is still running. In that case, simply pull out the spouts and stop. End of season. But suppose you don't get tired, how will you know when to stop? Over several weeks, the cans or jugs fill more and more slowly. One afternoon, you'll go out to gather and find they contain either nothing or just a little bit of pale yellow or maybe bright yellow sap. The trees are now ready to bud and the sap is worthless for making syrup. Throw it out and call the season over. If you kept going all season, you should have about 1 quart of syrup per tap. All right, grating syrup. Maple syrup is graded by its color. which is an accurate indicator of its flavor. A commercial grading set consisting of little bottles of colored syrup for matching can be purchased if you want to test your own. Fancy, pale golden, delicately flavored. Grade A, light amber, but rich but mild in flavor. Grade B, medium amber, robust flavor. Grade C, dark amber, strong in flavor. And that was it, you guys. And that is the end of the Backyard Homestead. We got through the whole book. Yay! Okay, what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to go through the resources, and I'm going to do them by chapters, which is going to make 7 little videos. But it's okay, because I want you guys to have this extra information. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one up there, and I will see you guys in a few minutes with the resource videos. All right, guys, I'll see you in a few minutes. Bye, guys.